Friends, I am so happy that we are kicking off season 4 of The Modern Leader, formerly The Mindful Leader. We switched to The Modern Leader because I have a new book out called Modern Leadership. And so I just thought we would, you know, rename it Modern Leadership or The Modern Leader and uh, broaden our horizons. This first episode, I am so excited about because you get to meet Mary Nhin. I found Mary Nhin through sushi. Her and her husband have a restaurant chain in Oklahoma City called Ninja Sushi. And then I found her on LinkedIn and saw that she was doing these amazing books for kids on social and emotional learning. And then from talking to her, I got to know her even better. And you're about to hear that discussion. What an incredibly driven, positive person. I love her story. I love her work. And I want you to meet her. Get ready for Mary Nhin, the modern leader. I'm super excited to have Mary Nhin with us today on The Modern Leader as president and CEO of Ninja Life Hacks. She's doing a little dance. If you can't see, I love when someone does a little dance. Mary Nhin is a social impact. Let me start that back. She's the president and CEO of Ninja Life Hacks. She is a social impact entrepreneur and author of the flagship series Ninja Life Hacks, over 100 children's book in the series dedicated to empowering children with life skills. And that's why I wanted to talk to her today about this incredible work she's doing. It's captured the hearts of over 4 million readers. That is amazing, Mary. 4 million readers, and continues to lead the way for an exciting adventure in social emotional learning. Under Mary's leadership, the Ninja Life Hacks brand of books, resources, and toys have empowered over 4 million children worldwide with social emotional coping strategies to use for a lifetime. Her books have been translated in 12 countries. As a co-founder and CMO, is that Chief Marketing Officer? I'm guessing. Okay, it usually is, but I wanted to be sure. Of Ninja Sushi. If you're in Oklahoma, particularly Oklahoma City, I'm not sure where all you all are, but definitely in Oklahoma City, Ninja Sushi is great. It's right around the corner from my house, and I go there all the time. So she's the co-founder and chief marketing officer there. The mom and pop restaurant has blossomed into a 5 location restaurant chain serving up high quality sushi and freshly cooked meals to busy families. Today, over 1,500 people visit Ninja locations every day. Mary's visionary. She's a very accomplished woman, so she has a nice long uh, bio. And now I can't find my mouse to scroll. Here we go. Her visionary leadership earned her and her teams a collection of industry accolades, including top 100 small businesses from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, AAPI Strong Restaurant winner from National Ace, in the lead female leader, Journal Record, 40 under 40 from OKC Business, Inc. 5000 from Inc. Magazine, Best Sushi, Edmund Life and Leisure, and Edmund Son, Best Finance Book for Kids from Investopedia, Best Kids Money Book from Mom.com. And she and her husband, I'm going to mess up his name. How do you pronounce his name?
Oh,
Is it
cane, like sugar cane.
Kang? Okay. Kang Nhin are proud parents of 3 children. We were just talking about our kids before we hit record. She has 3 kids, Mikey, Kobe, and Jojo. Mary, you're so amazing. Look at all that stuff you have accomplished in your life. It's so
Aw.
incredible. I'm so impressed with you. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here, David. It's such an honor to be speaking today about my favorite subject of all time. And I love sharing my journey, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mentioned Ninja Sushi. Go get you some Ninja Sushi. But that's how I first knew anything of the ninja stuff. But I ran across you on LinkedIn, and I saw you had these books on emotional intelligence, social and emotional learning for kids, and I got really excited about that. I even bought a couple. I don't know where they are. They're laying around here somewhere. I just redid my office, and so I've got books piled everywhere. But also, I think I gave a couple copies away to some parents who were struggling, and I was like, "Here, get in on this." But before we get into all of that, I want to start back at the beginning. Tell us about you, just Mary. Where did you grow up? How did you grow up? And how did you get to doing what you do now?
Well, okay. We're gonna go way back, huh? Oh,
Way back.
thank you first for being a Ninja Sushi patron. I really appreciate your loyalty to our restaurant. We wouldn't be here without this community that we have here in Oklahoma. So, yeah, my story dates back to when I was born in Texarkana, Texas. So it's a very
Mhm.
small town in Texas, and during that time, we were a very small minority in the population. I was the only Asian kid in the school, and so I faced a lot of issues of diversity, and I didn't know where I belonged.
Sure.
I faced a lot of inclusion and acceptance issues. So, just being a kid growing up in a predominantly Anglo-Saxon community, it was tough. But I think every kid has it tough these days. It's hard to navigate in this tech-filled world. And adversity is a blessing in disguise that can only be seen with wise eyes. And I found out later that it was actually a blessing, right? So, fast forward to 2002, my parents got a divorce. We moved here to Oklahoma. And that is about the time when I met my husband, and we were married. Pretty early in life, and he shared with me that he had a dream of opening a restaurant. And at the time, David, we had no cash, credit, or collateral, and we tried to get this restaurant that was going out of business, and they wanted $65,000, and we went to the bank, and they rejected us. We went to another bank. They rejected us. This happened about 11 times. We couldn't get the $65,000 business loan. So, facing adversity throughout our lives, we didn't give up hope right away. We kept thinking about, how could we make this happen? How could we keep our dream alive? So we, kept our heads down. We worked hard. We saved money. And then one day, as we were driving around this neighborhood in Edmond where we kind of wanted one of our restaurants, I saw a for sale by owner sign. So we called him up, and he said, "Yeah, I can sell you the real estate. I can sell you the building, the FFE, right? Furniture, fixtures, and
Yeah.
equipment."
Yeah.
And the only problem was that we had to come up with 25% down payment. That
Okay.
ended up being $200,000 because the
Okay.
building was 800,000.
Yeah.
And it is we I believed in my husband's dreams so much because I knew that his love language was acts of service, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has a love language, right?
Right.
And he loves to cook for people. He loves to share his culture. He loves to cook for me. And he believed in himself. And so we were like, you know what? Let's just risk it. Let's just risk it all. So we did what we could. We maxed all of our credit cards out. This is the 25% or crazy API interest rate credit cards.
Yeah.
We put our reputations on the line. We borrowed from friends and family.
Yeah.
We took out lines of credit on the very little collateral that we had, our vehicles at the time. And we were able to save up enough money and open up the first restaurant, which was, and I don't think you had a chance to go to this one, King's Asian Bistro on 2nd Street.
Okay. No, hadn't been there.
Okay, so
Is
that
it
was
still there? Is it still there?
our, no,
Okay.
we actually opened it in 2010.
Okay.
So yeah, the February of 2000, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Ninja. February 2005 is when we opened King's Asian Bistro. And little did we know that was actually not the hardest part. Here comes the hardest part. This was working 12, 14, 16-hour days, 7 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were buried in debt. This was the hardest time in our lives because we were trying to pay down the debt, build our business, while battling all of these human resources issues and economy issues. And this is around the time we also had embezzlement. We learned so
Mm,
many lessons through those years. But yeah, I could tell you stories upon stories about our adversity, our challenges and obstacles as a first-time business owner. But so we'll fast forward a little bit to about 2008, and we were dining in our restaurant in the lounge part, because our King's was swanky. It wasn't like a Ninja,
right.
right? It was
Right.
sit down, order off the menu. And we were with Kobe and JoJo, our two youngest. They were 3 and 4 at the time. They were very energetic, very rambunctious, just like toddlers can be.
Right.
And, we felt a little embarrassed with them in our own restaurant. And and then that's when a light bulb turned on. I was like, hey, if we feel embarrassed, I wonder how other people feel with their kids. So we were
Sure.
like, I think there's an opportunity here to create a concept where we could still offer high quality sushi and homemade meals, but to busy families with kids.
Yeah.
And that's when Ninja was born. So 2010, we opened up our first Ninja,
I love
and
it.
every year thereafter, we open another location.
Yeah.
And then around 2019, I was able to, kind of pursue my passions of
Mhm.
writing and empowering children. And that's kind of how I got started with that. And there's quite a few stories on my
Yeah.
publishing journey.
Yeah. That what an incredible story. There's so many lessons just in what you just said right there. There's so many lessons. Perseverance, the grit, the determination, but then also the pivot, recognizing that, okay, this wasn't how I envisioned it, but maybe there's something better and switching and doing something different. It's so powerful. So
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah.
So one, I'm thinking of a couple things here. One, I know what you've written and the work you've done for your company. And then just talking to you in this brief time, like it feels to me like you're very deep, you are very insightful. And I'm curious, where did that all just come from your personal experience? How did you get the business savvy, the insight, the wisdom, all of the everything you're bringing into all of these books, which we'll talk more about? Where did all this come from?
I am a true believer in following your passions
Hmm.
and learning from all of the adversity or obstacles or challenges you might face in life. And so this my 300 children's books are written um through my experience as a mother, an entrepreneur, and wife, and my life experiences.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Um, did you have along the way, either early in your life and career or now, did you have any mentors that really uh, fed into you? Maybe tell us a little bit about because you started like, yeah, for sure. So kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's a really good question. I didn't per se have a mentor. Uh, Actually, I had the reverse. I had the reverse role models, the ones where
Yeah,
they did things where you learned from it.
right, right,
Time, those kinds of role models you do learn quite a bit from. However, if I was to say in my journey who my mentors and role models were, they were always teachers, and so that's why I love giving back to teachers so much, is because in my life, teachers have always been the people who I look up to, the ones who have guided me without wanting anything in return, and
right.
I just love that.
Yeah. Great. I love that answer. Thinking about the reverse role models, I've had a few of those in my life too. And sometimes they're the most influential. Like, I'm not sure what I need to do or want to do, but I definitely know what I don't want to do. And so some of those people bring that into your life. Uh,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Wonderful. Tell me about your first book. Like, what was the inspiration for it? What was the decision to make that? And when you wrote the first one, did you have any idea you were going to write 300 or more? I mean, tell me a little bit about that first one.
Yeah. Oh no, I had no idea that it was going to spiral into this frenzy that we have right now. Um, I have to go back to 2019 and tell you about the story of when my middle son actually became a published author before I did. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, it's not a lot of people know this because, he's not actively writing right now, but he is a three-time published author. And at the time, I was homeschooling him, and because he was a competitive national tennis player. Okay, so we were traveling for tournaments nationwide, Alabama, Florida, everywhere, right? So he was winning these local and regional tournaments, but when we got to the national level, he was having difficulty. And then we found out that it was actually it was mental toughness. It was
Mm,
the mindset, it was the grit that he was lacking. And in high performance situations like that, anxiety can get the best of you, and
sure.
you can get performance anxiety. But then he started practicing these techniques like visualization, positive self-talk, deep breathing, staying calm and confident.
And
And
Mary, how old was he at this time?
he was only 13.
And who fed that into his life? Did you and your husband feed that into his life? Coaches, other people who fed those? Because those are like very mature techniques that you're talking about. So who fed that into him?
Yeah, so he read some books and then I worked with him on these techniques. So
Love it.
the day before a match, he would sit on the bed and he would close his eyes and he would think about his match. I don't know if you play tennis, but he would think about like where he would serve it. Would he hit, would his first ball be a forehand or to the deuce court, to the ad court? Would he come up and volley? How would he put it away? So these are things he really grasped and he
Yeah.
put it in practice. And I was amazed. And I was like, first of all, I was astounded that these things weren't common sense to him, because
Right.
you think like, okay, I thought everybody thought positively. No, that's not the truth. It's not common sense.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. This is what I found, David, is that once you expose children to concepts and to resources and tools that they can just take out of their mental resource toolbox, they can use it anytime.
Right.
And that's like all those techniques that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So he started practicing this and he started winning again. So I don't know if you play tennis, but super tiebreakers, I think he won like 11 in a row. That is
Wow.
unheard of because
Yeah.
a super tiebreaker is basically a coin flip. And it can go because the opponents are pretty evenly matched, and then it's up to the last 10 points or whatever. And then but yeah, he just totally dominated for quite a while. And so in his online English course, the teacher asked him to write a paper on anything at all, and he chose topic of mental toughness. And
Mm,
I read it, and I was like, "Wow, this is great." Not only did he grasp it, he wants to share it. And I was like, "Do you want to share it with the world? Do you want to share it with others, kids?" And he was like, "Yeah, that'd be cool." So I went and tried to submit the manuscript to traditional publishers, only to be rejected a bunch of times. And then I decided, you know what? That's not going to stop us. We're going to self-publish this.
right.
So we published How to Win Wimbledon in Pajamas. And
What a great title.
yeah, the tennis community loved it. He went on to write How to Win um, the How to Win a Gold Medal in Pajamas for a
Yeah.
future Olympians, and How to Win the World Cup in Pajamas for soccer players.
That's so great. I love it. I don't want to say who it is yet because we don't have the schedule finalized, but I believe this season on our podcast, we're interviewing an Olympic gold medalist in soccer. And as you were talking about all that stuff, I was thinking about her and how that mental toughness, all of that. I was kind of relating to her story that I've heard, and just but for a 13-year-old, how impressive and what an accomplishment for the tennis work and the books. That's just crazy.
He's amazing. He really is amazing. He has since hung up his writing hat, but I hope that he picks it back up sometime in
Sure.
the
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to 2019, so when he hung up his hat, I just thought to myself, and I said, I've already taught myself how to self-publish. What about my writing manuscripts,
Mhm.
And that's when I tried to submit my Positive Ninja and Angry Ninja, and I got rejected, and probably like 11 times, 13 times, and I went and self-published them, and then what started out as 16 ninjas has now evolved into over 100 ninjas. Um, and that is parents and educators started asking me for a focus ninja, impulsive ninja, a neurodivergent ninja. And so I write about behaviors, skills, life skills, emotions, feelings, even financial savviness. I think these things sometimes they feel like common sense. They should be common sense to children, but sometimes they're not taught in home and at
Right.
school. So I'm hoping to bridge that gap. I also believe that it is a holistic approach. A lot of times we put things on the shoulders of our teachers, and it's hard for them to fit everything in during the day.
Sure.
But I also think it's important for children to learn at home and at school so that you have this all around approach to social emotional learning, just as we treat PE, physical exercise.
Right. Right. A couple things I want to not forget where I want to go with this, but let's start with um, the rejection from both your son and then you. You write the manuscript, and so it sounded like, if I understood right, you wrote two books initially, and you were submitting those. Is that correct? And
Mhm.
so, to be rejected 11, 12, 13 times, talk about what that was like. I'm sure it was discouraging, but also you sound like you have a lot of grit. What was that rejection process like to get to finally, I'll just do it myself?
Um, yeah, I think at that point in my life, one thing about me is that I'm not scared of no. So, and
Yeah,
that's fine. It just makes it harder for me. But sometimes it can be a blessing also, right? Because if I had gone the traditional route, I would not have had what I have today. Because not only do you lose some creative control, but you definitely don't get to publish as fast with a traditional publisher.
sure.
And I just don't know if I would have the same opportunities that I have
Yeah.
today if I had traditionally published.
Yeah. Do you do you do the artwork as well, or you have someone else, an artist that you work with?
No, I am not that talented.
Okay, that's all right. Well, the visuals and the branding and all of it is so good. That's why I didn't know who did that, but it's very, very good. I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
So usually what happens is you give them an idea of what you want.
yeah,
It once you find some illustrators, and a lot of times the first illustrator you find is not the one, and sometimes
sure.
you have to go through a couple of them before you figure out the relationship will if it will work.
Yeah,
And you always come with an idea, but then you let them have creative control. I mean, that's
sure.
that's the way I do.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm sure now you have a good brand built, they can look at kind of what you've already done. But in the beginning, it was all, fresh and unique. So I met Dr. Mark Brackett from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence a few years ago at a conference, and I saw him again at another conference. I had him on the podcast last season, and they do uh, social and emotional learning training in schools all around the world. A lot in the U.S., they do it all around the world. And I know that here in Oklahoma, as well as other states, there's this misconception, misunderstanding. People are against it. Explain to everybody what social emotional learning is and why it's important for kids.
Yeah, so I could see maybe I could see where it might get twisted just because social emotional learning can include topics of inclusion and acceptance.
Right.
Social emotional learning to me is the skills that you need for life, for integrating your relationships, communication skills, and also being aware of your own emotions and other people's emotions, necessary to develop empathy and compassion and understanding. So that's what social emotional learning is to me. And I think that we're in the forefront of a social emotional revolution because America is facing a tragedy right now in our school systems where we're seeing a lot of school shootings. And the root source of that, I think, is of the lack of mental health resources and or the mental state of mind of our children.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. Um, okay, so your first, which was, did you release the first two at the same time, or you did one before the other?
Uh, Angry Ninja was my very first book, and then
First one.
I published Positive Ninja right after, like maybe just like a month after. Mhm.
So, what age group is your writing geared toward in these books?
So it always depends on the child's reading level because at that age it really varies. But ages 4 through 10 is my
Okay,
demographic for the Ninja Life Hack series.
excellent. So tell us a little bit. We're not going to go through all 300, obviously, but tell us a little bit about Angry Ninja. Like, tell us about that story and what kids can learn from it. Tell us a little bit about Angry Ninja.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Angry Ninja, let's see, where is that book at? Of course, I wouldn't have Angry Ninja right here in front of me.
And if you are listening instead of watching on YouTube, she's got a beautiful library behind her, just jam filled with so many incredible and colorful books. It's a great background that you have there. All right, you found Angry Ninja. He looks ticked off on the cover.
So Angry
Frustrated.
Ninja, yeah, he's just dynamite, ready to blow up any
Yeah.
moment, any moment. So I believe in teaching children in a way where it's fun, right? I think everything should be fun, everything that we
Yeah.
do, right? So I try to incorporate lessons in my stories, but I want to make it where the children are not like they don't feel like they're being taught or
Right.
they don't feel like they're learning, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens is Angry Ninja is upset. He's upset at his sister for taking a piece of chocolate cake, or actually in the beginning, it's a jump rope. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so they're arguing, and he ends up blowing up at his sister. But then he gets together with his friend a little bit later on, Positive Ninja, and they play a game of pig. I don't know if you've ever played pig before.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, the basketball court. So it's a relatable situation. So a lot of a lot of these situations that are happen in my stories are actually real life events that happen in my boys' lives.
Right, right.
So again, that's where the life experience comes from. And so I try to make these relatable experiences so the kids can be like, oh, I've played that, I've done that. That
Sure.
has happened to me before. So then Positive Ninja teaches Angry Ninja the 1 + 3 + 10 concept. And that is to say one word first, like breathe. And
Hmm.
then three, we take 3 deep breaths, and then we count to 10. And then it it kind of shows how Angry Ninja shares how he wants to voice his feeling. I'm angry at you for taking that cake.
Yeah,
And then he feels better,
yeah.
So it's acknowledging the emotion, right?
Right,
Because no
right.
emotions are negative or positive, they're just emotions. So he acknowledges it, but then he has a coping strategy and he pulls it out of his mental toolbox and uses it.
I love it. And I was literally just about to say that there are no negative emotions. There are pleasant and unpleasant emotions, and but it's what we do with those emotions, and that's what you're teaching. Like it's okay to get angry, like, and being angry can cause. I always say being angry can do great good. Like if I get angry about injustice or something, then I'm motivated to do something about it, and so the anger actually becomes a useful tool. So it's not what we feel, it's what we do with what we feel that's important.
Yes, absolutely. It can drive us.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about your books is I teach this at the adult level. I do a lot of corporate work, I do a lot of corporate training and coaching and those kinds of things. And you're doing the same work at the kid level. And every time I see something, I'm like, the messages are exactly the same. It's just the delivery that's a little different. So I love that about what you're doing. Tell us,
Yeah,
so you have 300 of these books, over 300 of these books. Do you have some favorites? I know they're kind of each one's kind of like a kid, so you probably love them all, I'm sure. But do you have some that like, man, this one's really my favorite, or this seems to be really important and really resonates well with people?
yeah. This is a really good question because right now my best-selling books are deal with impulsivity and sensory and neurodiversity. These are the issues today that are affecting our children, and that's why my age range for the reading level is so diverse. It's because some kids are on the spectrum and
Right.
they may have advanced reading abilities and they may not have advanced reading abilities. So I do a lot of work with special education students, and so these are my most popular topics. So I have Sensory Ninja, Neurodivergent Ninja, and my best-selling book, Impulsive Ninja, that helps children use the power of pause before replying or before reacting. Now, my personal favorite, you can probably
Yeah.
guess this, is Gritty Ninja, of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Focus Ninja. If people had to guess what my favorite was, it would be Focus. I can get so OCD focused.
Right.
It's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple things on the impulsivity and that pause. Again, kind of, you're working with kids, I'm working with adults. Literally the last 2 days I did training and we talked repeatedly about the pause, the importance of that pause and how it just changes everything. And I love that, you're talking about that. And I literally did that with adults today. So it's so good. If parents are reading these to their kids, the parents themselves might learn some stuff along the way, I'm sure. And then you, just from what we've already talked about, I picked up very quickly the grit. And you mentioned that your gritty one is one of your favorites. Talk a little bit about grit. I have this love-hate relationship with grit, and I'll tell you why, and then you can say whatever you want to say about it. So I grew up with nothing. I mean, we were dirt poor, we had nothing, and I've done okay in life, but man, the grit I had to exert to overcome all that and get to where I am was just phenomenal. And frankly, honestly, now at my age, I'm like, tired. Like I still get energized by the work I do, but as I kind of look back in my life, I feel like, man, that should not have been so hard. But to escalate to where I am, like it was, like you had to have grit. So in one way, I feel like, and I tell people, you can't get anywhere without grit. Like you've never achieved a goal if you didn't have some grit, right? You have to have that to you. And also, I think our society kind of glorifies grit in order to overuse, overwork, people, and they instead of saying, "Wow, you deserve a break, you need a break," they say, "You need more grit," and then that takes the impetus off of me asking you to do the work and not paying you fairly or overburdening you, whatever. And I just say you just need to be more gritty when really maybe they brought a ton of grit to the table and they just now they're like spent. So you have your gritty book and I have my gritty thoughts. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, adversity is a double-edged sword. When you're going through the grind of it and when you're going through it, the depths of adversity, it's really hard to see it as a blessing, as a gift. Um, it's a lot of work. A lot of times you feel like you're all alone on an island.
Mm.
Um, But you know what? I don't think that you would be such a socially, emotionally intelligent leader without that adversity, without that grit. And so I think you're so humble to say that. Because I almost automatically can spend time with someone and know how adversity has affected their lives
Right,
by their
right.
mindset. And I can just spend time with you just here, just a little, and I know you have learned so many valuable lessons about life that you're gifting other people now. So, yeah, I think grit is a combination of passion and perseverance, defined by Angela Duckworth in her book
Right.
Grit. It's such an amazing tool that the earlier you have it in life, the better you will be.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely. Okay, let's take a pause. Mary, we like to do this thing on the show called the Music Minute. And in the Music Minute, I just love music. I grew up as a musician, and my family's a bunch of musicians, and I love, playing music, listening to music, all those things. And so I just get curious about my guests. What kind of music do you really love? Like, what do you listen to? Maybe some of your favorite artists, favorite songs. Tell us about the music that Mary loves.
Okay, I don't know. I think I might be made fun of about this because when you mentioned it, I was like, the first thing that comes to my mind is it's so weird, but I work out to gospel music. It is so crazy. I know you're
Yeah,
supposed to pump up and you're supposed to have like, hard rock or R&B or
yeah,
pop music, but I don't. It
yeah,
is the crazy thing.
yeah. Who are some of your favorite gospel artists?
Hillsong, I could
Uh-huh.
just listen to them over and over again on
Yeah,
repeat. I can only imagine that
yeah.
group.
Mercy Me.
Yeah, Mercy Me. That movie I've seen over and over again. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's wonderful. It's inspirational for you, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's inspirational, it's soothing. And I think when you're working out, because I work out out of 7 days a week. When you're
Hmm.
working out, I think a lot of people do need that pump up music, but I know that if I don't work out, I don't have energy for the day. And so this is like an
Right.
automatic part of my life. And so now I need to hear something soothing.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah.
Told you
Yeah.
it was weird.
No, it's not weird at all. Do you have any like favorite concerts you've been to or anything like that that just really stand out in your mind?
You know what? I haven't been to a lot of concerts. I've only
Okay.
been to like two. But tomorrow I'm headed to Benson Boone's concert here in
Cool.
Oklahoma, and he's going to be at Choctaw Casino. Yes, the one that was going to win American Idol, but he dropped out because
Yeah.
he didn't want to be the American Idols
Listen, you just
winner.
got me really excited because the year's not over yet, but right now that's my album of the year. Benson Boone is insane. That album is ridiculous. And I thought his Oklahoma concert was sold out, which you must have got him. I didn't even hear about it till it was sold out. And so yeah, I'm jealous. I didn't know it was this week.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited to hear him. You know, he writes his own lyrics. That's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah. And what a voice. I mean, it's a ridiculous voice. He's so good. Yeah, he's my album of the year so far. We'll see how it goes to the end of the year, but right now he's my album of the year.
Wow.
And,
Did
and I
you
talked with,
listen?
go ahead.
Did you hear Addison Rae's new song, Diet Pepsi?
Yeah, I heard that. That one didn't really grab me, but yeah,
No?
I heard. Yeah, I
Okay.
listen. I listen to mostly new music. Like every New Music Friday, I go through all the new songs and find some stuff to listen to for the week, and then the next week I redo it. So I'm almost always every week listening to what came out the week before. So, but that one didn't really grab me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Benson Boone, wow, I can't get enough of that. All right. See, I think that's fun to get to know you a little bit better. We know you better now. That's awesome. Well, you'll have to let me know how Benson Boone was. I'm sure it was amazing. Um, what's next for Mary? Oh, well, let's talk about your toys real quick. I want to talk about your toys. Tell us about them.
Yeah. So, I haven't actually made this public, but 2 years ago, I was in the final rounds of being on Shark Tank.
Yeah,
And
I bet.
uh, yeah, and so I didn't make the cut for the airing. And so I said, you know what? Let me just go ahead and try to do it on my own. And so I started creating toys, and they've been doing really well. I have about 20 different toy SKUs. This provides something like some more support for children in case they cannot learn through books or as an additional support for my books. So these toys are used by therapists and counselors and teachers, even at home. Um, yeah. So the toys have been doing great. So right now we have plushies, we have mini plushies, and we have pillows, cuddly pillows.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I was about to say for those who couldn't see them that are just listening, that they're plushies, and they almost like I don't know if you like this comparison or not, but they remind me like a little bit of like a Pokemon kind of looking thing, but they have a different look. They have like the Ninja brand, which, okay, can I tell you this about Ninja Sushi? I ate at Ninja Sushi for so long and never caught on to the logo that was like a little mask. I had no idea until I saw your books, and then I was like, oh, that's a mask on and ninja. Now I get it. It was just I felt so stupid when I was with my son and we were picking some sushi up and when I pulled in and saw the thing, I was like, oh, I get it now. And he was like, really, Dad? Like I think everybody knows that. And my son's a graphic designer and so he does all kind of stuff like that. And he's like, yeah,
Oh,
I'm
how
pretty sure
funny.
everybody knew that but you. So that's just my
You know
own.
what? No, I'm glad you shared that story with me because you're not the only one. I would dare to say 40% of the population thinks our logo is a fish and they don't
Okay,
realize that it's ninja mask. It's
right.
actually a ninja in the circle. So if you're ever driving around Oklahoma City Metro and you see our logo, see if you catch the fish or the ninja head mask first.
Yeah, which one? Well, I
Because
think because on the logo, like his head's turned a little to the side, and so it's not like your stuff. I can see it a little more evenly, the mask, but like the way it's turned a little bit, like one side is bigger than the other, and so I think that's what threw me off. I don't know.
yeah, well, here, ask your son if he can see the fish because that's
I'll have to
that's
ask
the
him. Yeah,
that's the real adaptability skill factor, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah. I'll
you've
have to
seen
look
it
for
with
the.
his now, and now he has to see if he can see it both ways.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can even see this fish, and then ask him also. That'll be maybe we'll do that. We have dinner once a week. Maybe we'll go get some sushi this week and
So
see
what
if
did
we
you
can.
think it was?
I had no idea. Honestly, I had no idea. I just saw the little thing and I was like, Okay, like I didn't think much about it.
Oh,
So
how
I didn't
funny.
think it was anything else. I just didn't catch that it was ninja. So
Oh,
then,
how funny. You're so
so
funny.
then when I saw your stuff, I'm like, oh, it's the ninja. Okay, I get it. And for people who don't know, um, you in your books you use ninja spelled traditionally Ninja, but it's a play on your last name, the Ninja Sushi. So it's Ni or Nhinja. And that I had no idea was related to your name and everything. I thought it was some Japanese word or something. I didn't know. I had no idea. So I just thought ninja, whatever. So I wasn't connecting the word ninja with a ninja person. People don't care about this, but this is one of the things I love about the show is it's a conversation and it goes wherever it goes. But
No,
anyway,
I
the,
think
the
that's cool because a lot of people do wonder why did we spell it like that, right? But it's
yeah,
I'm gonna teach you a new word today. It's called portmanteau. So ninja is a portmanteau of our last name and ninja. So Nhinja.
portmanteau. I'm gonna have to look that up. I have favorite words. Like I have a lot of favorite words, and some of them are very common words. They're funny words or unique words. So I'm going to have to add portmanteau to my favorite word list because I just did learn something new today. That's very good. And I wonder how many of our listeners knew portmanteau. I'm betting not a lot, although we do have a pretty smart audience, so maybe so. So your toys are fantastic. So you've got your books, your toys, the sushi restaurant. What's next for you? Because I feel like you are going to be an amazingly creative and productive person throughout the rest of your life. Like I feel like stopping you is going to be really hard. So, what's next for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. My three boys have moved out this past fall, and I'm officially an empty nester, which makes me very sad. But now I have so much time. But we just released some cards and games, in addition to our social emotional learning curriculum that includes lesson plans for teachers to use, along with our books. But a Hollywood producer has reached out to me about a cartoon series or
I love it.
movies. We have been working on that for quite a while, and we
Yeah.
shall see. Fingers
Oh,
crossed.
yeah, that's a great idea. I love it. Best of luck to you on that. That's awesome. And I
So
love,
these
yeah, the cards and curriculums, things like that. What a great idea. And I know teachers just need so many resources. So I also love that you have the lesson plans and for them, everything too. That's fantastic. We're about out of time. Tell me a little bit, just a little bit more about, okay, I have two things. First, Shark Tank. I don't know if you can go into this, but I cannot like how did they not pick you for Shark Tank? I like do you have any idea what the problem was or why they didn't?
I
You seem
yeah,
perfect
yeah,
for
and you
Shark
know what?
Tank.
This is the first time I have actually said it out loud. I haven't made a
Yeah,
video. I haven't renounced it to my platform. I think I was still sad about it, about not getting it.
sure.
But it ended up being a blessing because now I have more creative control and I learned how to do toys and games myself. Um, so I didn't have to license out my brand at all. So the process actually, it happened in 2022. I applied, I got an email back right away, and I advanced to a phone call round. And then after the phone
Mhm.
call round, I advanced to this video round. And then I was uh, interviewed by some directors and had to send in additional materials and videos. It was quite a bit of work.
Sure.
And so I was at that point I was very emotionally invested, right? And
Hmm.
so I think they got like 9,000 submissions or applications, maybe it was 19,000, but in 2022 it was narrowed down to 188 applicants. I was in the 188 pool. They could
Wow.
only film, yeah, they could only film like 100, can't remember, 127 people or something like this. It had to be narrowed down one more
Sure.
time. I did
Yeah.
not make the final cut. So yeah, I was real sad about it,
Yeah.
but I mean, I would have, I think, and maybe take this as advice for any future applicants, but I think I may have asked for too much because at
Okay.
that point I had already built up my brand and my business.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
was asking $1 million for 10%.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot. And maybe
So
some
10
sharks
million
don't know.
evaluation. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that I wouldn't feel good about maybe offering more, but maybe I should have for the exposure. I don't know. But this is how life has turned out for me.
Right. Yeah. And I love that mentality you have. Like, maybe, who knows, but you can't sit around and cry about it. You just have to keep going and move on and take what you learned and apply it, which you have done wonderfully. So that's great. Okay. My last question is, talk a little bit about what you do with schools and your interaction with schools and teachers, and to talk a little bit about that, because I do think it's real important and I know you have a lot of interaction. So tell me about that.
Thank you so much, David. This is my most I feel so privileged to do this work with school students and with school teachers and with schools because what you do basically what I'm doing is I'm providing future clients to you because
Right.
the students
Right.
are going to one day grow up and they may or may not know about social emotional skills and social emotional
Hmm.
intelligence, right? But as if once they learn coping strategies and once they have the social emotional tools, they can just pull it out of their toolbox and use at any time. But the problem is many students are not exposed to these types of solutions and they
Right.
don't know that they have these resources at the tips of their fingers. So the struggle is empowering children who who don't have the financial resources right now.
Yeah.
And so one of my biggest projects for 2024 is getting Collective for Children off the ground. It's my 501c3 nonprofit that aims to work with Title I schools, with nonprofits, with medical clinics who serve underprivileged children and disadvantaged children and gets these social emotional books and resources into their hands.
I'm so glad I asked you that question because I'm so glad to get that information out. If people are in any of those groups, contact Mary because that will be a great partnership. So I'm really excited to hear that. I think that's wonderful. You said if the more you do it, the more clients I'll have. I feel the opposite. I feel like I get the people who don't get what you're giving them. When they grow up and they didn't have that SEL, then their employers send them to me because, like, hey, this person has a lot of issues. They don't know how to interact with people. Can you help them? So I feel like the more successful you are, the less business I'll have, and I'm happy for that. I think that's great because I'll figure my life out, and I feel like there's plenty of people who don't have these skills that will both be fine.
Oh, no,
But
no, no, no. I think the opposite. I think we build each other up. It's like someone opening
oh,
up a sushi
absolutely,
restaurant, right? It's like some people might view it as, that's not cool, that's competition. But
yeah,
actually it's broadening the world of sushi because a lot of people haven't tried sushi and they're afraid to try
sure,
sushi. But what if my opponent across the street was able to get a virgin sushi diner and
right,
then maybe next time he might try my place.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's you have that abundance mindset, which of course you do. That's who you are. And it just made me think, you talk about people who haven't had sushi. My mom, she passed away a few years ago, but she hadn't had sushi, but she also couldn't say sushi. She would always say sushi instead of sushi. And so sometimes I still almost say sushi because I made fun of her of it. So I thought it was funny. Mary, this has been absolutely wonderful. I appreciate your time. Tell people how to get a hold of you, how to find your stuff. Tell them how to find you.
Okay, you can find me at ninjalifehacks.tv. You can email me at mary@ninjalifehacks.tv. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. If you can't buy my books, I do storytime readings for free on YouTube. Twitter.
Oh, how fun.
So, yeah. Thank you so much again for having me, David.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great time.
All right, bye.
I am sure you loved Mary Nhin. What a fun conversation and a fun, dynamic person that she is. We're going to have a moment of meditative thought here in a second. But before we do, I want to just remind you of a couple things. First of all, wherever you're listening to this podcast, when you like, comment, follow, rate, all of those things. It's so helpful in helping other people find this. So if you find value in this, please go out and rate and follow all of the podcast stuff. Second is my business is Pendulum Coaching. You can find us at pendulumcoaching.com. You can sign up for our email newsletters. You can sign up for our on LinkedIn. If you connect with me, I have two different newsletters. You can get the LinkedIn newsletter on LinkedIn. You can get the email newsletter through the website. And I do training on leadership, emotional intelligence, mindfulness, all of these things. So I'd be happy to come and coach or consult with your organization. But let's get into a time of reflection. I always say, I like to put my feet on the ground, put my hand on my lap, sit upright in the chair, and just relax that way. If you're sitting some other way, that's fine. You can close your eyes. If you're driving, do none of the above. Just continue driving and focusing on the road. But I want us to think about part of our conversation we had with Mary about pause. And let's just practice taking a pause and then talking about how that helps us in our interactions. First, I'd like us just to experience that pause. And I just want us to be quiet, be still, maybe just take a few breaths and just experience some stillness and a pause. As your mind wanders, just let it come back to a peaceful pause, maybe focusing on your breath. Just let everything go for a moment. In Stephen Covey's landmark book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he goes through and explains stimulus and response and how our minds work. We have a stimulus, whether it's the alarm clock going off or a conversation with someone and they say something to us, or we read an email and it hits us a certain way. Those are all examples of just a few of the stimulus that we experience. And naturally, our brain reacts very quickly to the stimulus. But to have great relationships, to have healthy relationships, and to make better decisions, it's very important that we separate the stimulus from the response. And this takes a lot of practice. But the way you do that is you put a pause in between the stimulus and the response. And that pause is what allows you to think how you want to respond. What's a more proactive way to respond rather than maybe how you really want to respond right out of the gate. The more we practice the pause between stimulus and response, and the more we work it into our regular interactions, and the longer the pause gets, the better our responses become. So that's why we find it important to understand the pause and to practice the pause. So, right now, I'd like you to just think about what are the things that stimulate you. maybe that make you angry or impulsive or frustrated or sad or happy? What are the things that you think of off the top of your head that stimulate you towards a response the most? Just think about that for a moment. Now think about your responses to those stimuli. How do you react typically when those things hit your life, your inbox, your email, your discussions? What's your typical reaction to those things that stimulate you the most? Now ask yourself if that's how you want to respond. Are you happy with the way you respond to stimulus? If you are satisfied with the way you respond, then that's fantastic. But most of us have kind of mixed reactions. Sometimes we like the way we respond, but oftentimes we wish we would have responded a different way. So let's just imagine for a moment that stimulus and not your response, but just imagine pausing after the stimulus and what that pause looks like, what you can do for the pause. So just reflect on the pause right now. Just come back to that pause. Maybe you take some breaths. Maybe you take some time. Maybe you go for a walk. Whatever you need to do to have a good response. I would encourage you to reflect on the pause and how to integrate it into your life and how you can benefit from that. As we close, let's just take a couple deep breaths. You can inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. You can open your eyes. I want to thank you so much for joining us on the Modern Leader podcast. Thanks to Mary Nhin. You can connect with her at ninjalifehacks.tv. And I know you'll find great value in everything that she has to offer. Thank you so much for joining us on The Modern Leader.